Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by Durham Region. Our love of sport runs deep. Our guest today, one of the great face-off men in NHL history, one of only 11 players to win Stanley Cups with three different teams, Joe Nieuwendyk. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Our guest today was born in Oshawa, raised in Whitby, now calls Dallas and upstate New York home. He started at Cornell University. He was the ECAC Player of the Year. He was a 1988 Calder Trophy winner, a four-time NHL All-Star, one of the all-time great face-off specialists, played 20 NHL seasons in Calgary, Dallas, New Jersey, Toronto, and Florida. 564 goals, 562 assists in 1,257 NHL games. He was an Olympic gold medalist. He won the Stanley Cup with three different teams. He was a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. He is a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Joe Nieuwendyk. Joe, great to have you here, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. This is great. So, we talk about growing up in Durham Region. Who were some of your mentors as you grew up in Whitby, which back then was a pretty small town?
Well, it was a small town, and of course, we had the big city of Toronto down the road, 40 miles. But I was a diehard Leaf fan growing up. Days of Lanny McDonald, Daryl Sittler, Boreas Salming was my favorite player. But I used to follow the Leafs religiously. I used to keep track of their stats in playoffs for things you remember. But so for me to have a chance to play with Lanny McDonald early in my career was a big thrill for me.
Yeah, that was not long after Lanny scored that great goal against the Islanders, and of course, the things that happened in Toronto with Punch Imlach and everything else, things went a little bit awry. But thank God he got his chance to win a cup with you guys in Calgary. But you played some high level lacrosse as well, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Your Whitby Warriors team won the Man Cup title. Uh, was it tough to make that decision between hockey and lacrosse because you were a good player in both sports?
Well, to be honest with you, I loved lacrosse more than I loved hockey growing up. I loved them both. Don't get me wrong, but I really I love lacrosse. It was just a great game. Played with my buddies all growing up. As a matter of fact, just a couple nights ago, they honored our 1984 Minto Cup team that you showed a picture of there earlier. So it's
Right.
hard to believe 40 years ago, but hadn't seen some of those guys for probably 35, 40 years either. But yeah, I just think lacrosse was such a great compliment to for me for going into the winter, the hockey part of it. There's just so many aspects of each game that are complement each other. Standing in front of the net, the physical aspect, the hand-eye coordination. And I really attributed a lot of my success early in my hockey career to my lacrosse playing days.
Yeah, you tend to take a lot of whacks in front of the net in lacrosse, even more so than in hockey. And cross checking is part of the game, so it's pretty rough out there. Um, so I got some. Here's a combination of you playing lacrosse and hockey. We have a goal, Vic. If you can roll that, it's uh, tell us about this.
Wow, you guys got both.
Oh,
That's
what a sweet move!
we do our little town here of Ithaca, New York. They do a charity hockey, and there's legendary Richie Moran, who's now passed away. But they we had a shootout at the end of the game, and Richie gave me a lacrosse stick. So I actually went to Cornell in 1984 to play both hockey and lacrosse, and there's Richie again. Uh, but after the length of the hockey season, and I knew I was going to enter the draft and be drafted, I decided not to play lacrosse, and didn't make Richie very happy. But
Yeah.
I think I did a break after a long hockey season.
Yeah, you know what? And you talked about lacrosse complementing hockey, and probably so much better than people who play hockey all year round. Would you say? I mean, the fact that you played different sports in different seasons.
Well, Wayne Gretzky always talks about that. Even on the telecast the other night, he always encourages parents to have their kids play multiple sports. I think it's easier said than done in today's environment. Kids seem to specialize, and they have hockey tournaments all spring, all summer long. And if you're not doing it, you're feeling like you're getting behind. I get where people feel that way, but I do agree. I think whether it's golf or something at leisure, if you're playing something else, you're doing something else. You're getting a break from what you do most of the time, and I think it just helps you athletically too to do some different things.
Yeah, and prevents burnout, I think, as well. So, Cornell University, we touched on that. 72 goals in 81 games over 3 seasons. The ECAC Player of the Year and a finalist for the Hobie Baker Award. You won a silver medal at the World Juniors, turning a few heads as well. Did you think that at this particular time, did the Flames have their eye on you, and were you aware of that?
Well, after my sophomore year, I remember we played Denver in the NCAA tournament, and Cliff Fletcher was out there, and I
Hmm.
spoke with him after the game, and he was, encouraging me to think about turning pro. I never felt I was ready physically and probably mentally at that point. I was probably 165, 170 pounds soaking wet, and to be honest with you, I was having a great time at college. I enjoyed it. And then so to go one more season, I think I knew after that season I was going to turn pro. Um, I played 22 games my junior year at Cornell, and we didn't make the playoffs, if you can believe that. Following year, I'm playing over 100 games with the Calgary Flames, so it was a huge adjustment. But I felt I was more ready after my junior year than my sophomore year.
Well, that proved to be the case, I think, because your 1987-88 rookie season, 51 goals in 71 games. This is the, the highest level hockey that there is. All rookie team, the Calder Trophy. Were you surprised to get the nod?
Well, we had some bad helmets back then too, didn't we? But Uh, that year, I after my junior year, I joined the Flames in New York City, and I played 9 games at the end of that season, and so it really gave me a feel for what it was all about. I was able to play in the lineup for those 9 games. We lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Winnipeg Jets, and I went back to school. But then coming into training camp, I kind of had a taste of what it was like. I had a little bit of success in those 9 games, so I felt somewhat confident going into it. So, and, there's a lot of good veterans on that Flames team that really helped me become a pro, Lanny especially. But yeah, I think the experience I gained at the end of my junior year really paved the way for what was to come.
Yeah, and it was all a part of the growth, that for you and the team, after that, you said first round loss to Winnipeg, there would be none of that the following year. Uh, Once again, you had 51 goals, 11 of them, those were game winners, which was tops in the NHL. And of course, that incredible playoff run. 10 goals in 22 games, capped by the first and only Stanley Cup in Calgary Flames history. I know that you guys really wanted to win that cup for Lanny. Of course, we all wanted to see Lanny win the Stanley Cup. And not only did you were you able to win one for Lanny, but you personally you set Lanny up for that Cup winner right in the Montreal Forum. Tell us about this moment.
Well, this was a great moment. I had to make a quick play, and sometimes I'm not known for a saucer pass. I don't think any of us had much of a saucer pass. Maybe Hawk and Luke did back in the day, but
Yeah.
to get that puck over to Lanny and for him to score, and here he came around the horseshoe with that big mustache, and I remember that moment vividly. Everybody was so happy in that moment because Lanny hadn't played every game in that series, and before that game, coach told him he was going to go in, and what a fitting way to end his career.
Yeah, and such a great guy too. I mean, not only did you get a chance to win with a nice pass by Hawk and Luke too, by the way. Not only did you get that chance to win it for Lanny, but do it in the Montreal Forum, with all that history and everything else. And just I mean, that moment was just so spectacular.
It really was, Joe, and we're the only team to have won the cup in the Montreal Forum. in the Montreal Forum who wasn't the Montreal Canadiens. So that's I
Wow.
still think about that to this day. I remember, I'm 22 years old. Gary Roberts, my buddy, and I are 22 years old. We're thinking it's going to be this is great. We'll do this, multiple years. I just remember that moment in the locker room in the Montreal Forum. My mom and dad were there. My mom was directing traffic on St. Catherine Street outside the Forum, trying to get our bus back to the airport. It was a late night, but that was a special moment. But like I said, I thought it was going to be easy. I think I maybe took it for granted a little bit, but the takeaway I had was how special it was for some of the older guys, the Rob Ramages, the Brad McCrimmons, the Joey Mullins, and especially Jim Poplinski, Tim Hunter,
Hmm.
but especially and to see what it meant to those guys really stuck with me my entire career.
Well, I mean, they got a chance to see the Oilers celebrate so many times, and that was difficult being their cross provincial rivals, and getting a chance to finally do it yourselves. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, big time. We were always the little brother there in Alberta, but we had some good battles over the years. But they had such a talented group; it was hard to get over the hump, but we finally did in '89 there.
Yeah, the beautiful time, that was for sure. So after another solid season, 45 goals, or another, 51 goals. Eventually, you were named captain. Clearly a leader, but then for whatever reason, the Flames decided it was time for a change. And how did that hit you? How did that affect you?
Well, to be honest with you, Joe, I kind of instigated it. Our core group was breaking up there. Gary Suter had moved on to Hartford. Mike Vernon was on his way to Detroit. Al McGinnis was going to St. Louis, and it was just kind of the time. And I was having a few contract issues there in Calgary, and ended up sitting out, being here at Cornell University, skating with the guys here until
Mm.
Christmas. So I kind of instigated it. We just couldn't come to terms on anything on a longer term deal, and so I got dealt to Dallas, and was happy to get back playing. But boy, it was a big adjustment going from a town like Calgary, where wins and losses are really important to people, to going to a town where hockey was relatively new. And I think the fans only cared if they saw a good fight in
Mm.
one of our games. It was a real big adjustment for me, one that took me a while to get adjusted to.
Well, they eventually started to get to know hockey. And you talk about that deal, and it was you for Jerome Agunla and Corey Millen. Actually, we had Jerome on the show a little while back, and he said it was a trade that was good for everybody. Let's roll that one.
Looking at it, it's Dallas. Nieuwendyk went there. They won the Stanley Cup, but he was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. It worked out well for them. He was a big reason why they won the Stanley Cup. So, if I go there and they're an older team, maybe I'm not playing as much as a young guy, and getting the same opportunities and getting a chance to develop and be part of their lineup. And breaking in Calgary, I got to play right away. I got to play at 19. I got to be a part of it. I went through some growing pains. I had a really tough second year, or I felt it was really tough. And maybe if you're on a top team, you don't, they don't let you work through those growing pains, and send you to the minors, and who knows.
Yeah, so the pieces fell into place for both of you guys, as it turns out, and Jerome got a chance to play, and here you are, a couple of Hall of Famers now. Do you think that perhaps maybe that wouldn't have happened if that deal doesn't come together?
Well, it's a good question. You never know how these things work out, but I really like what Jerome said, and I got a lot of respect for him. I had a chance to play with him in the Olympics, and just a wonderful guy, and what a great ambassador for Flames hockey he was for the course of his career. But I agree with him. I think it was a good trade for both clubs. I was at a point in my career where I was, 27, 28, 29 years old, and Jerome was just starting, and we were building something there in Dallas, and he was able to get his career going right away in Calgary, and what a great career he had. So I like it when trades work out for both teams, and certainly winning a cup in Dallas, and cementing that was a great thrill for me.
Yeah, let's talk about that cup win with the Stars. Now, in their great run, you had 11 goals and 21 points in 23 games, including 5 game-winning goals. You were the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Was this cup as good as the first one?
Well, it's interesting. There I had kind of three different stages of my career. I felt winning it so young in Calgary, and as I mentioned, seeing what it meant to the old guys was really impactful for me. But then I went 10 years without getting through the first round. So to go through it again in '99 with Dallas, I mean, I savored every moment of it. I knew how hard it was to get to the Cup final and to ultimately win. So. Um, it really fueled me to enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey, and we were a good team. We were building something special there. Bob Gainey had brought in some pieces: Sergei Zubov, Eddie Belfour, Daryl Sador, Mike Keane. We started to develop something there, and the Dallas Cowboys were kind of in a tailspin, and so this blue collar hockey team kind of stole the hearts of Dallas there, and we had won the President's Trophy the year before and lost to Detroit and the great teams that they had. But then in '99, we put it all together and had a great run through the playoffs.
In addition to the two cups so far, now you're on the Canadian side that wins the Olympic gold medal in 2002. What was that moment like for you, playing
Uh,
internationally like that?
yeah, that was great. I was fortunate in '98 to be in Nagano too and to experience that, but to have it in our home country and have my daughter on the ice there. She's now 23, but Gretz was so special for everybody there, and remains that way to this day. But that was such a great feeling, knowing that the entire country is with you, watching you, and people often ask me what's better, an Olympic gold or a Stanley Cup, and I wouldn't trade either one of them. The Olympic experience is a 3-week tournament where you're getting to know your team and you have to gel in a hurry, and we certainly did that in '02.
And the next stop, New Jersey in 2003. I believe this was partially instigated by you once again, but time to host that cup once again. And what was special about the third cup?
Well, actually, this trade I didn't see coming at all. I'd showed up on
Oh,
trade deadline day we had a later practice because of the trade deadline, and so I went to the rink, myself and Jamie Langenbrunner, and we were just expecting to go on the ice for practice, and we got called in the coaches' room, and this was after the trade deadline, and I thought they wanted to talk about the power play or something, but we went in there, and as soon as I walked into the room and I saw Doug Armstrong and the look on his face,
oh.
I knew, and Jamie knew, and that was a real tough one to swallow because of all the success we had in Dallas and the bonds I had with those guys, the wars we went through. So it was difficult going to New Jersey, but hey, you find out when you get there that there's great guys everywhere. And boy, I joined a team with already an established winning tradition and a core of Scotty Stevens and Scotty Niedermeyer and Kenny Danico, and so they had a great group there, and I just tried to blend in with them. I was only there a year and a bit, but I enjoyed it. It was a challenge because we were at a 1 year old and one on the way, and all that, moving around. I just bought a house in Calgary, in Dallas as well, and we had gone on an 8-day road trip, and my wife moved all the furniture and everything with some of the wives over to this new house. And when I got home off the road, I went to this new house for the first time, and it was beautiful. Everything was hung. But then the next morning, I got traded. So we spent one night in the new house, one night, and I was on a plane to New Jersey. People don't often see that stuff, Joe, but that's part of the business. And so we had two houses we had to sell, and so there was a lot of stuff away from the rink that I had to adjust to. And but you know, uh, thank goodness we won because I was only there a year and a bit, and it was a good feeling there as well. But they're all different. All three cups are different.
Yeah, 3 cups with 3 different teams, and, the next move is to Toronto, and we were all thinking, "Hey, maybe this is number 4." But it didn't quite pan out that way, you know, but you did have a couple of great, great series. You had one particularly good series. I'm sure that lot of us were hoping would happen in Toronto. I'm sure you thought it could possibly happen in Toronto, but you had that great series win over Ottawa back in 2004. You scored twice in Game 7. They were almost carbon copy goals here, including the winner right here. A wrister beats Patrick Lalime. The other goal was, like I said, pretty much a carbon copy, and that was a big goal. What would it feel like to wear the hometown blue and white and to score huge goals like that?
Well, I'll tell you, Joe, I played 20 years, and I think one of my most enjoyable years was the year I spent in Toronto. I loved it. I loved putting on that jersey, because I idolized them growing up, and I lived 40 miles down the road. And my buddy Gary Roberts was there, so I reunited with him. And to put that jersey on every night was special. All the history, my favorite players growing up, and now I was doing it. So my only regret there was that we had the lockout the following year,
Yeah.
and I was hoping after that that they would bring that team back because we had Brian Leach and we had a really good group. Mats was a terrific captain. We were close to winning a cup there, and I thought maybe they should have given that team one more chance to do it.
You know what? Just like the Expos in that lockout year that they, '94. It just you guys had all the makings, and I got a feeling too that could have been the year. But after that game, here's some of the post game interview you did with Scott Oak. Let's listen in.
Much was made of the will of the Leafs in this series, especially the older players, and there are a few of them on this roster. You beat a team with a lot of talent. Was will the difference in the end?
Well, I think so. I mean, plus the fact that we rode a pretty hot goaltender in Eddie, but I really think that, we talked about at the beginning of the series, and we knew it would be a long series. We just had to stick with it, and eventually it would pay off.
Yeah, you had so many nice pieces there, and Eddie Belfour in goal, and you mentioned Gary Roberts, and so you and Gary end up going to Florida after the Leafs decided to retool it. Um,
Mhm.
so a couple of seasons in Florida, but there was a back problem that things weren't quite the same. Tell us about your experience in Florida.
Yeah, well, Gary and I were communicating that summer, trying to figure out what we were going to do when we knew the Leafs weren't going to have us back. So we decided we'd go to Florida, and Jacques Martin was the coach, and they had some good young players, and Nathan Horton and Stephen Weiss and Jay Bomeister, and of course Roberto Luongo was the goaltender. We thought, this would be a good spot, not only for us but for our families too, to finish our career this way, and so we went there, and it was a different experience. The practice facility was not great. It didn't feel, that was such a in the Sun Belt there. It didn't feel like it was quite where it needed to be in terms of the pressure, uh, the the attitude of the team and the organization to compete at the highest level. Especially from where we had been in years in Calgary and Toronto and all these places. Great young talent there, but it just took a while for that to get going, and I don't think there's anything Gary or I could have done that could have sped up that process. It just, they're a far cry from where they are today, but so they had to go through some growing pains. But you're right. The first year there, I missed some time early in the season because of my back, but then I played the rest of the season. I think the last 63 games, and I felt really good. So of course you're thinking I can come back and do it again in my second year of that contract. But again, it was the flare up. I'd play 2 games, I'd sit out 3. I'd play 3, I'd sit out 2. And that's the so I finally midway through the season had seen some specialists about my back, and they were all saying like, "What? Why are you doing this?" So it was very difficult because you wanna finish what you started and be around the guys. So it was really tough and emotional for me to retire, and I think it is for everybody when they're ultimately done.
Mhm.
But it was time. I am 40 years old, so I'm grateful that I got to play as long as I did, and I'm happy that some of those young players went on to have success other places. Like Nathan Horton won a cup in Boston. He was a terrific young player. And Jay Bomeister won a cup in St. Louis. So it was fun to see those guys move on and do their thing.
So you got a chance to work in the front office with Florida, and then of course you got the gig in Dallas as general manager. Was it difficult for you to make that transition? And who were some of your mentors? You know, helping you to become the best you can be in terms of a general manager.
Yeah, well, in between that Florida and Dallas, I got to spend a year with Cliff
Right,
Fletcher in Toronto and follow him around,
right.
and that was I knew Cliff from my Calgary days, and what a great man he is, and just a great mentor. I credit Cliff with a lot of things in my career, the cup we won there, and helping me get to the point where I had that opportunity to be a general manager in Dallas. And so I had some good mentors when I went there. I was green, I was young, but Les Jackson was a guy who had been with the organization for a long time. He really helped me out a lot, and he was kind of my guy there that I could go to every day. So that was a great experience. I really enjoyed it too because it's the closest thing to playing. Uh, didn't realize the difficult circumstances that we had with ownership and the league involvement and stuff like that. So that presented some challenges, but still, I wouldn't have traded it. It was a great experience.
What was your best trade as a general manager? The
Well,
deal you're most proud of?
yeah. Well, I think the first move I made was brought my old buddy back and Jamie Langenbrunner.
Mm,
Um, I made that deal with Lou, and we had to get league approval because we were being run by the league essentially. But Jamie was just a player who I loved having around. He was my roommate for I think about 9 years throughout my career, and I often said that if you're going to go to war in the playoff time, you wanted a guy
mm.
like that. And so it was fun bringing him back. It was a little different though when you're the GM and you got to kind of draw that line between your friends because that was a bit of a challenge. Joe Mike Modano was on the team and he was nearing the end of his career, so I had to kind of navigate through those waters, which was not easy. Brendan Morrow's body was failing him, and so I moved him to Pittsburgh. But those things were very difficult on me. To have those kind of things happen with your friends.
Any clunkers, any deals you went, "Oh, no. Oops."
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we needed a defenseman real bad. Stefan Robideau was our top defenseman back then, and he was a warrior. But we didn't have much after that. So I traded James Neal to Pittsburgh for Alex Goligoski. James went and played there and scored a bunch of
Mhm.
goals. Alex gave us what we needed, but though I don't know if it was a good trade or a bad trade. I think Alex has had a great career. He's still playing in Minnesota and doing his thing, but I don't know. Uh, I'm not disappointed with any of the moves that we made. I had a great team with me, and we just tried to make our team better every day.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's never a one guy decision. It's always a group decision, and that I wouldn't call that a real clunker. A guy's still playing. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, and James Neal was. I mean, the guy had staying power. Like who would have thought, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
another Durham Region boy, by the way. Yeah.
that's right.
So, so you were recently honored. Well, a little while ago, you were honored by the Calgary Flames. Your number 25 was retired. They had a Joe Nieuwendyk night. Now, you're on the all-time best Flames list. You were named one of the top 100 players of all time. What was this moment like for you, being honored by the Flames? Your
Oh
first
yeah,
team.
that was yeah, that was a real special moment being there, and it's such a great group of guys, and they have such a great alumni there. And it's funny when we get together, we just kind of we have that look in our eye, like we kind of know what we went through, and but to be honored by the Flames, I spent 9 years there. It was difficult to leave there, but I understood why, where the organization was going and where I needed to go. But I still view Calgary as a place that gave me my start. It's where I grew up as a hockey player, learning from some great veterans, and to be honored and to come back with my family and have my jersey go up in the rafters was a real special moment.
And you also had your jersey raised at your college alma mater. You and Ken Dryden, same night,
Yeah,
had your
yeah. How
jerseys
about that?
retired together. How was that? How cool is that?
Oh, that was fabulous. I got to share a night with Ken, and we've had some conversations over the years. And what a great thrill that was. I mean, those were some of the best years of my life, and I'm sure Ken would say the same thing. Of Cornell University, Lina Rink is a special rink. You know, the coach there is my teammate Mike Schaefer, who's still coaching there. So many years later. And uh, I live here in the summer. I still skate there once in a while at Lina Rink with my son, and I just have so many special memories of Ithaca and Cornell hockey. So that was a real thrill for me.
Yeah, beautiful moment, no doubt about that. And Ken, you're in good company with Ken Dryden, by the way, too. So in 2011, you were inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, as was Dryden. You paid tribute to a fellow Whitby boy, your old buddy Gary Roberts, during the Hall of Fame induction speech. And let's have a listen to that, Vic.
When I played my first National Hockey League game with the Calgary Flames, Gary was by my side. And 20 years later, when I laced him up for the final time as a Florida Panther, he was again by my side. I can't tell you what it has meant to me to have my best friend with me through all the good times and the bad times all these years. He truly is a remarkable person and a terrific friend. And I always knew that throughout my career, he always had my back. And as we've often joked, he knew that I had his back as well, unless, of course, Marty McSorley was chasing him around the ice. Under those circumstances, he was clearly on his own. Many people are responsible for me being here tonight. Two things I have realized. One, 5 minutes is not enough time to properly thank all of you. And secondly, there are simply no words to express how grateful I am to have each and every one of you in my life. Thank you.
Tell us about that night and the honor of being inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah, wow. It still touches on my emotional strings there for sure. I've been back a few times since to see some of my friends go in, and what a great job they do over there at the Hall of Fame. Kelly Massey and Lanny and all the people that make that place go. But that was such a special night. What a great class too. A few of my teammates, Dougie
Hmm.
Gilmore and Eddie Belfour and Mark Howe. What a special guy. Got to know Gordy a little bit that weekend, and just everything that evolves around that entire weekend is so special. And to be able to share it with my family, people, coaches, and people that had an impact on my life all the way through from minor leagues to college to pros. It's just they do it the right way, and I was so grateful to be a part of that and to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, pretty cool that a couple of Whitby boys, you and Gary both made it. Well, Gary didn't make the Hall of Fame, but both made it to the NHL and had spectacular careers. And who knows, maybe without the neck injury that Gary had, but the fact that he came back from that was unbelievable. And getting a chance to play with him in Calgary, Toronto, and Florida. And speaking of Toronto, what are your thoughts on what you're seeing in the playoff run this year?
Well, I mean, this is painful for Leaf fans to go through this. Series is not over. I think they've made improvements to their club. It's just Boston is a thorn in their side, and those guys like Brad Marchand and they know what it takes and they know how to get it done, and he's doing it. He's been a wrecking ball for them. I love the way Austin Matthews is playing. He's playing hard, and he's had to learn that over the years. It's just it all has to come together, and it's not just the top guys that have to do it. Everybody has to do it. They have to sacrifice. They have to come together as a team, and even though they're making strides, they're just not there yet. I'm hopeful they can extend the series tomorrow night and keep it going, and then maybe have a dramatic finish. But we'll see.
Well, the dramatic finish would be fantastic. We'd like to see that, and of course, Austin's playing with an illness of some kind too, which can't help. And missing Willie Nylander for 3 games in the beginning, that wasn't helpful either. But if they aren't able to get it together and pull out a miracle here, would you break this up? Would you say it's time to maybe, you know, shift gears a little bit, maybe take some change some pieces?
I, I think there's been talk like that every year, and I think if it if they do bow out, I think this would be the summer that they'd have to make some adjustments for sure. Because people said this last year. You're going to have a great regular season here, but people don't really care about that. They like that it's entertaining, but they want to see extended series and hoisting of that Stanley Cup. So I think it's easy for me to say as an armchair critic and a fan, but I think it feels if they do bow out that this probably would have to have some adjustments made to this team, and who knows what else would happen.
What about your other former team? I'm feeling more secure about Dallas, even though they dropped the first two games at home. Coming back in that series, what are your thoughts about the Stars?
Well, I know this team pretty well, and I think they're a terrific team. A few years ago, they were Sagan and Ben, but now they got all these great young players, especially up front, Wyatt Johnson and Robertson, all Rope Hinson.
Hmm.
They've got a cluster of players that they're going to be fine for going forward. I just feel bad for them because they drew the defending Cup champs on the last day of the
Hmm.
season when Vegas lost, LA won. I think deep down, if I was a betting guy, they probably would have preferred playing LA in the first round
Uh-huh.
because look at that Vegas team now, and they're all healthy, and they just look like a juggernaut out there. Stars did a great job last game, but this is going to be an interesting game in game five, game
Right.
four.
Game
Sorry.
four. Yeah. Uh, just get Mark Stone just back just in time for the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah,
And he just
just
happens
in
to be healthy and he scores a game winning goal. Oh, whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the way it goes these days, isn't it? So,
Well,
final,
people want to pick
final.
people. I'm sorry, Joe, but people want to pick on Vegas for that. But I think I heard a stat the other day that like 12 or 14 teams have been able to do that and miraculously get players back at the right time. So they're not alone, but and I don't know if that's something that'll ever get discussed in the future. But hey, they're
Yeah.
regardless, yeah, you got to beat good teams in the playoffs, and they drew a tough opponent in the first round, but they just got to get it done, and they did a great job the other night. They got to do it again in game four.
Yeah, Tampa did it a couple times in a row. So I mean, it's just it's getting the bodies back at the right time, having a good capologist and everything else, and putting it all together. But you still got to get the job done on the ice. Is the bottom line. So, final question I like to ask all my guests: what's the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, wow, the best advice. Huh, that's an interesting question. I think probably coming from my parents, just to be myself. I was a young captain in Calgary, and sometimes if you're a young captain, you think you've got to do some things you've got to change, or you got to do this, or you got to do that. I tried to be myself my entire career. Tried to be a good teammate. I loved coming to the rink and being around the players. I felt like I had a good rapport with all my teammates over a 20-year career, but I never tried to be somebody that I wasn't. If I had a letter on my sweater or whatever, I knew that it took everybody to win, and I did my best to try and make every one of my teammates feel a part of it. I remember when I went to New Jersey, there was a little bit of a hierarchy there, but I invited a guy like Brian Giunta to the back of the bus because I didn't know the kid very well, but I wanted to hear what he was all about, and so I just tried to do stuff like that where and I had a lot of respect for all of my teammates, the fourth line guys, the fighters that I played with, the Timmy Hunters. I valued them just as much as I did the Matt Sundins. They were important guys to our success, and I think I recognized that early on that you needed everybody, and I tried to make everybody feel a part of it.
Well, I like that. So knowing your role and being who you are and not trying to be something you're not. And I think people who would appreciate that are people like your coaches and your fellow players because they know who they're going to see when you get to the rink, right?
Yeah, 100%. It takes a lot of work to to pull the whole team together to all pull on the same rope in order to. It's hard enough just to win hockey games, but to get to a championship level, boy, everybody's got to sacrifice and be a part of it. And I think those are the teams and those are the things that I remember most. The journey that it took to go through what you go through and those are memories that I'll have forever with those each and every one of those guys that I won with.
Well, there's a guy who knows how to pull his share of the rope. Joe Nieuwendyk, 3 Stanley Cups with 3 different teams, 45 career hat tricks. Not bad, Joe.
45, no, no way,
Uh,
45.
oh, what do I have here? Oh, maybe it's 45 game-winning goals. I'm sorry, something like
I'll take 45 hat tricks.
45 hat tricks would be yeah, that would be something else. A lot of hat tricks anyway. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe 11 or something. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much for being on the program. It's been great having you on. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thanks so much.
All right, more when we come back.
Rely on Walton Restoration's 40-plus years of excellence in residential and commercial restoration. Their strong reputation is built on workmanship, professionalism, and outstanding customer service. Trust Walton as your dependable partner in emergencies, serving Durham, Kawartha, and Northumberland regions. Call 905-725-5666 or visit waltonrestoration.com. Experience top-tier workmanship and service. Walton Restoration, the trusted name in property restoration. Join satisfied customers like me. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca.
When you're injured in an accident, you may be entitled to multiple benefits. Entitlement to these benefits are based on your insurance policy. On a basic policy, you will have eligibility for income replacement benefit, non-earner benefit, attendant care, and medical rehabilitation benefits. It is very important to have a detailed discussion with your insurance broker or agent when obtaining a new policy or renewing your existing policy. Call us now for a comprehensive review of your claim and your policy limits. You do not pay us until we settle your case.
Call Nathan today at 416-289-1236 or visit alliedlegal.ca. And we want to thank all the folks who make the show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian and local sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, as well as the Spanglish Network, Buzz TV, and Zingo TV. Also, check out all the past shows on YouTube. All the great shows are on there, shorts and reels. Like and subscribe. It is absolutely free. I want to thank Joe Nieuwendyk for joining us on the program today, and I want to thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in the early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach
to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit sleepyhollowcountryclub.com. Joe Tilley here. My wife Penny Claire and I recently took an amazing trip to Egypt and Jordan with Trip Oppo. And here are our top 10 must-dos. Number 8, the Rose Red City of Petra, Jordan, and a stay in a unique cave hotel. Visiting Petra was like stepping into a different world, a place where ancient architecture and natural beauty come together to create something truly spectacular. As I wandered through the narrow canyons and towering cliffs that surrounded the city, I felt like I was on an adventure in a hidden world, uncovering secrets and marvels at every turn. And the Cave Hotel was the perfect place to stay, like staying in a secret hideaway with cozy rooms carved right into the rock and breathtaking views of the surrounding landscape. I would highly recommend that you book your next trip through Trip Oppo. Call them today. Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.